6th place. 10 minutes. You need to get on with this.
Right guys, just doing a quick race in the M2s here at Oulton in RFactor 2, right?
Let's go.
And the idea is we're going to jump into ACC after this to do the same thing basically. So it's a quick 10-minute race. We did go for a standing start in RFactor. ACC will be a rolling start just because the way that game is set up for endurance racing and rolling starts and stuff. But yeah, whatever. Right, so
That's barely a scratch, just ignore it.
okay, so the AI are quite slow in the corners. I did have this at 105% AI before doing this video, but I found that the cars had like warp speed on the straight. In the corner they were pretty well matched, but now I find in the corner I'm kind of in a different league, and yeah, it just kind of takes a bit of the fun out. The AI is just not balanced the way it kind of want it to be, but you know, whatever. Yeah, I mean, they feel really nice to drive. They feel like they can be thrown around a little bit. The steering does feel a bit light, kind of mid-corner, like here, for example. I can even hear, I don't really feel anything as such, you know, like there's no like realignment force on the steering rack, and that causes problems then because you're not sure if the car is actually slipping with understeer or whether it is just, you know, let's say normal, but yet you don't get the feedback. I can feel the curbs and everything fine, but the actual steering forces kind of struggle just a tiny bit. Let's see what the AI are like to actually battle with that adjustment I made. Now, I am probably going to have to brake a bit earlier into the corners because I think the AI are doing just that. But let's see. Yeah, the sound and the dashboard and all of that seem good. It does actually sound like an M car. You know, it has that kind of traditional rasp out of it. And if you've ever driven or been in one in real life, you'll know exactly what I mean. I mean, they've changed through the years, of course, but they still have that kind of that rasp that's, you know, even the old ones had. Flashbacks to when I had my M3. Gotta get another one of those actually, or something M related. Have to negotiate with the wife, of course, but we'll see. Right, so let's see how the AI defends. Oh, braking very early there on the way in. And you can still see the AI dabbing the brakes in and out, though it has improved versus what it used to be like. Oh, braking very early there. Very early on the brakes.
On the right side. Still there. Still there. Clear right. Nice one, Gary. Great move. Keep it up.
Ooh, ran a bit wide. The AI, though, has to be said, they're not really doing anything specific to defend that I can see. Like, they're not covering braking mark lines. They're not covering the inside really. Jesus. Okay, so we made a bit of contact there. I think maybe they got out of shape on the way in and had to bleed off a lot of speed.
Aero damage. Cold tires all around.
It's a good battle though. It's a good battle. I don't think there'll be much slipstreaming going on with these type of cars. So
That's half distance.
right, so now he's covering the inside, right? So that's good to see.
Keep digging. This isn't over yet.
So maybe, and I have noticed actually that the more pressure that I seem to be applying here, the more kind of mistakes and the more slowness that the AI is showing out of corners. So
There's a car on your left. Clear on the left.
all right,
Nice one.
yeah, I'd still like to see the steering wheel weight a little bit heavier. Like I say, when I hit the brakes, it gets really heavy. But or well, heavier, you know. But I just feel that it's lacking that mid-corner kind of feel.
This is spot on. Three.
As a car goes, I have to say that the physics and stuff like that feel very, very good. Like it's behaving exactly as you'd expect a car to behave. You know, like you chuck it in, it starts to slip at the front, you get a bit of push like this, even off throttle. And then as soon as the front end grips back up, the rear then can become the limiting factor when you give it some throttle. So it's behaving in a way that you'd expect a typical car to behave. So yeah, hats off to the guys at RFactor 397, Studio 397 for getting this pretty, you know, it feels nice.
Looking good.
These would make a brilliant online car, I think, for anyone doing RFactor 2 races. Really, really good. Interestingly as well, the sound how it is very similar to the sound of the one in ACC. Certainly on the inside of the car.
Okay, Gary, you're reeling this guy in. The gap's now 1.3. He's pretty slow into Old Hall.
Yeah, and the model looks great as well. Yeah, and you can fight it a little bit as well. Like you can play with it on the limit, which is good. Be interesting to see the ACC one, how that compares. It's been a long time since I drove that one, in fact. But I think Oulton Park, you know, the reason I chose this track is because for the type of car that it is, it's one of those, you know, really, really fun circuits for it. And as well as that, like I think with the M2, you know, if we're going to do like any little comparison between ACC and RFactor from a drivability and physics perspective, I think doing it in a car like this is probably the best because, you know, I mean, yeah, I'll probably do a GT3. Oh, he's nearly lost it. Like I'll probably do a GT3 one as well. But the thing with GT3s is that there's, you know, so many different makes and manufacturers that it can become subjective to how one feels versus the other, where with the M2 it's, you know, they're all the same, and it should be pretty much identical from one sim to the other, or close to it basically, you know. And as well as that, it really starts to focus on the mechanical grip and the weight shift of the car. A little bit less on the aero. Like the aero, I'll do that separately, and I probably will need a GT3 for the aero bit. But for this test, I really wanted to focus on the mechanical grip and the weight shifting. All right, so 1 minute to go, I think. Oh shit!
Gone out of track limits.
Go on your right side's clear.
Whoops. All right.
Last lap. Bring it on now.
Okay, so the last lap. So yeah, really interested to see how this will fire up an ACC. You know, will there be similarities? Will there be differences? If there is, what will they be? I can tell you now, from what I remember, the sound is quite similar. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be too different, to be honest. Like, I'm just trying to cast my mind back to when I did actually drive the M2 and ACC. I remember it being fun. I remember it being very agile, or not agile, sorry, very playful. Probably the best word. You know, you could have maybe one or two sloppy inputs, and it wouldn't hurt you the way a GT3 would. You know, with the aero sensitivity and stuff like that. Yeah, but I tell you, even in RFactor 2, like, you know, if you can get by the weight of the steering thing being a bit off, everything else about this car is really good. You know, it's fun to drive. It's somewhat forgiving as well, and it definitely will encourage close racing online, for sure. And it's the type of car that, you know, even new drivers will be able to pick up and, you know, be able to adapt to and have a bit of fun with. Without having to worry about the higher speeds and the higher, let's say, complexity of like an aero-dependent, like GT3 or, you know, something similar.
Gary, great drive. That's a podium.
Righty. So let us so what we'll do is then we will just have a quick look at the replay. Yeah. So what do we think of it then in general? So it was, you know, it drove really well. The cars were really closely matched. They look great. The models are really good. The colour tone, you know, visually is very neutral, and the sounds were pretty good as well. I think, you know, it sounded the way I know an M2 race car to sound, particularly from onboards, and they have that M rasp, and I can tell you that from having owned one before. I had an M3 in the past. But yeah, I mean, overall, brilliant fun to drive for a single make series. I think it would be great. The AI, I think, are a little bit off on this car track combo. I haven't tried many now, to be honest, so I can't comment across the entire RFactor 2 roster of tracks, right? But I do know when I had this, the AI set to 105, it was a case where on the straights they were noticeably faster. Through the corners they were a great match, but on the straights, you know, you'd be coming side by side with an AI opponent, and they would just pull off into the distance, and it kind of ruined the racing fun a little bit. Then when I dropped them like by 5%, I'm probably too fast for them. So just a, you know, a slight criticism. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I really like them. I think they're good. They sound great. They handle great. They're a playful car to drive. They're fun. They feel nice and natural. The force feedback could do with a little tweak, I think, mid-corner, just to, you know, realignment forces. Or it could be the way the car is on suspension geometry. Don't know. But I can tell you from driving it, it was a bit strange. You know, it'd be mid-corner, there'd be very little bite back through the steering wheel. And yeah, you didn't quite know if you had grip on the front or if the thing was slipping, because the feedback was very, very light. Now when you applied the brakes and the front started to get heavier, then you could start to feel the weight almost unnaturally ramping up on the steering wheel. But you know, whatever, it is what it is. Overall, very fun car. Overall, definitely a car you would have a lot of fun with racing online. But anyway, let's stop this one here and let us jump into ACC, and we'll repeat this.
Low tire pressure, stay clear of the curbs.
Right guys, so the same race again. This time we're in ACC. So yeah, I think we've got 28 cars on the grid as opposed to like 10 in the other one. I just forgot to turn down the number of AI. But yeah, I've had no practice in this. I've just jumped straight in. So I don't know what to expect. Hopefully the AI are kind of close enough, but yeah, I mean, visually it's very similar, isn't it, to how it was in RFactor 2, so yeah, let's go for it.
Floor it, green.
All right. He's still with you. All rounds clear now. Right side. Car either side, you're in the middle. Still there. You are clear on the left. You're clear all round.
Being very cautious. All right, let's go for it. So this car was really good in RFactor. Be interesting to see what it's like in ACC.
Right side.
Oh, instantly I can tell you the steering wheel in my hand is giving me a lot more detail here. It's much sharper.
Well done, Gary. Good start.
Okay, run a bit wide. Be patient. Okay, let's try and just settle in for a few more corners. Really interested to see what the AI are like, but I'll tell you, man, the steering wheel already is just giving me way more detail as to what the car is actually doing compared to RFactor, which I didn't really expect, to be honest. But let's crack on and see kind of. I mean, the feeling of this car is superb. It really is superb. Like, I can feel the weight shifting. I can feel the back of it snapping around. I can feel the weight of the of the steering load and unload as the chassis kind of bounces around the racetrack. It's given me a lot more information, a lot of useful information. Yeah, every little detail, guys, is just related to what the car is doing. It really is, you know. You don't get any of the canned stuff that you might get in other sims, and I know people say, oh, well, you don't get that in other sims. You do, and I've tested it. And I've got a video on the channel showing that in Motec to prove it. And, you know, canned effects, by the way, if you have a little bit of canning, that's okay. You know, we have to try and program, I guess, the FFB in these games to give you kind of what you should get. And if you can't get it naturally, for whatever reason, you know, adding a bit of effect is perfectly fine, you know.
Keep your line.
But once it feels, and once it's not at the expense of the important information, which I think, unfortunately, some simulators, I think, can risk that, but you know, again, it's all subjective, of course, you know, force feedback. But for me, I have to say, this feels very lively. The steering wheel is alive in my hand.
Still there.
That's one thing I've always liked with ACC in general, is the
Nice one, Gary.
the
Nice
quality
move,
of the FFB. A lot of people don't get on with it, and like, honestly, I struggle to understand that sometimes. But at the end of this race, I'll flash up my my wheel settings again for ACC, just in case that you know, might help some people maybe. But the force feedback in this sim is second to none, I think, in my opinion. And I say that in an unbiased way, like I drive all of the sims. It's true, yes, ACC is my my main one for GT3 leagues and stuff like that, but I love them all. I think AMS2 is actually really good as well. That's a very close second, almost a joint first. They feel a bit different, but they both deliver that kind of experience in slightly different ways. But in terms of the directness as to what the car's doing, like ACC is pretty much up there. The M2 itself here, like I can feel the weight shift. I can feel when it wants to snap under braking, when it wants to snap on throttle, and the feedback is just so much more direct that I'm able to quickly make any adjustments that are necessary.
Your rear brakes are cold, mate.
Yeah, it just leads to a more engaging drive. And one thing that I do notice with this is that the mid-corner central realignment forces are much more prevalent compared to RFactor. So yeah, for me, I think the whole driving experience in this game is markedly and measurably better than RF2. And that's not to say the RF2 one is bad. They do a great job of it. Like, and if you're an RF2 only driver, if that's your only sim, you'll have a great time in the M2 as well. I think it's done pretty well in RF2, to be fair. But if you have both of the sims, ACC and RFactor 2, I can tell you without any hesitation that the M2 is better in ACC, to be perfectly honest. And I'm saying that being unbiased. The reasons being is the force feedback is way more direct. It wakes up in the corner. I can feel what the car is doing more. It's more alive on and off throttle. The actual what the car is doing and the predictability of it matches exactly what the steering wheel is doing and the feedback of the steering wheel. And it does it in such a confident way. Like it's like, here's what the car's doing, here's where you're getting to the feedback, and it's going to match exactly, and it does what the car does versus what I feel is exactly what I'm seeing on screen. It's exactly what I'm hearing through the tires. It's just magical. It really is. It's a great drive. And then the little correction of oversteer when it raises its head. Oh, got a much better drive here. Oh no, shit. Sorry.
He's still with you. Still there. He's still there. Clear right.
Well done. Nice front now.
Yeah, and you know, you can wrestle with this car as well. It's really fun. Yeah, again, another one of those kind of cars that would be great for online leagues and stuff. And yeah, they're not used enough in ACC like this. There's the Lambo ST, there's the Porsche Cup, and you know, the Ferrari Challenge Evo. Now, that one is a bit of a handful, I have to say. Like, it's a lot of power and not a lot of handling, but you know, this is for a slow kind of touring car type drive.
Hey Gary, don't let this guy distract you.
This is brilliant.
That was a 151.30.
Oh.
We've been warned about track limits.
Feel the thing over the bumps here as well, just reacting, you know, really cool.
That's 2 minutes left. 2 minutes.
Yeah, and you can feel just the steering rack becoming ever so slightly lighter when the rear threatens. It's very direct, very informative. Something that, you know, in my experience, AMS2 and ACC are probably the only, well, I won't say the only two sims, but the two sims that are, like, you know, from my experience anyway, delivering that feeling. And you know, with that in mind, like when I'm talking that about AMS2, it's the default steering profile, not the default plus or anything like that, or you know, which in my experience I found can be a bit ambiguous. But like I say, with the regular default in AMS2, and you know, you know, in ACC there is only one flavour, and that's the flavour the developer wants you to have. Which, yeah, I think does a really good job. And washed out there, completely washed out, and the front tyres are over pressure. So I think the tyre pressures ideally in ACC for this car are 27 psi. So we're running kind of hotter tyres than we should be. And I'm noticing that now the front grip is just, the car's like just bouncing across the track a bit more, just, you know, overinflated tyres maybe, I don't know. Just not turning as well, but yeah, I tell you, it's a really good, really fun driving experience in this car. And you know, battling the AI in the earlier laps before we spread out a little bit as well has been a lot of fun. And again, this is a car that, in my opinion, should be driven a lot more in ACC leagues. And if you're an ACC player, the chances are that, you know, GT3 is your main thing. Like 95% of your driving will be GT3, and I'm also in that bucket, by the way. But yeah, I'd like to change that. Oh shit.
Yellow flag, stay sharp. The incident's clear, green flag.
Well, there's a good race round. But I tell you, it goes to show you how easily that, you know, these cars can bite you. Even though they're a lot slower, they can still cause a lot of problems, like if you start abusing them or you're not careful about how to you know, get on power, and you're not respectful of them. But yeah, great fun. Cool race, what a cool race.
Alright, check the flag.
That's the end of the race. Never mind.
I'll bring the car back.
Right, so let's have a look at the replay of this and kind of unpack the thoughts. So yeah, so here's the start anyway. But yeah, I think both games do a really good M2 CS option. For me, the Assetto Corsa Competizione version was notably better in many different ways. You know, visually it looks great, audio looks great, crisp, clear graphics from, you know what we'd expect now on the Unreal Engine. So, you know, I don't know if that's a fair comparison, although the RFactor 2 version did have a more, let's say, natural looking colour tone in some areas, but from a visual and audio perspective, I think they're both really good. You know, in their own ways, of course. But look, let's be honest. Like, ACC is on a much newer game engine, so you've got, you know, arguably better looking in general, right? In general, the audio is, you know, again in both games, I think is quite good. The one thing that I don't think is up for any contest is the interior of the car. Like in Assetto Corsa Competizione, this interior is better than the interior in RFactor 2, and that's obvious to see, right? There's no contest on that one. Let's be honest. But you know, where it really matters in terms of the driving physics and stuff like that, they both behave in a very similar way, right? The weight shift, the front end wash, the back snapping around when it does snap around and stuff like that. But where I found the differences was purely in the force feedback. So the car would do the same thing pretty much. You know, and I'm speaking generally here, there wasn't a massive difference with car behaviour, but how that behaviour was given back via the force feedback, that was very different. ACC was way more lively in the force feedback compared to RFactor. That then meant that I could better position the car, I could feel the car more, I could react to what I was doing. Now, the argument might be, oh well, look, ACC is your main sim, so obviously you're going to feel that way. But to be honest with you, like, I drive like the Honda GT3 in ACC. This car feels nothing like that. Not even close. Not even close. How it drives, how it pitches, how you get on power, even the feeling of the steering is totally different. So for all intents and purposes, I might as well be driving a different simulator entirely. You know, so the fact that this is a sim that I do my leagues in and stuff like that doesn't impact what I felt, you know. And anyone that knows me and knows this channel will also know that I'm not a fanboy toward any sim, and certainly not ACC. Like, it's not without its issues. But if I look, you know, in a very unbiased way and discuss just what I felt in the steering, for me it was clear ACC just had a much better experience, more lively experience. The steering was a lot heavier. It was way more direct, and I was never in any doubt as to what the car was doing, and everything it done as it was fed through the steering wheel, as it was fed on screen, visually, audio, tire slip, chassis impact, all of that stuff was just better overall. There's no other way to say it. But yeah, that being said, look, if you're an RFactor 2 player, and you know, let's say all you do is play RFactor 2, or you don't have any other sims, you know, whatever. The M2 in that game is also done very, very well. I'm not saying that it's done badly in RFactor 2, you know, nothing like that. They're done really well in both, but like I say, if you compare it to ACC and compare it to the, you know, what I've just tested here, this is markedly better. And I don't normally give those opinions, guys. You know me, I try to be balanced. I find the positives and the pros and cons and all, and you know, we usually get to a point where if one is better, it's marginal, but with this one, it's not so marginal. In all honesty, I think ACC just, you know, they've just notched it up a gear. And I haven't driven this car in a while, so I don't know if there's been a recent update to ACC that has somehow improved this. But even I don't remember this car being this good in ACC. And I'm actually sitting here wanting to do another race in it. So yeah, look, make of that what you will, guys. And again, this is not... This game is better than that game. Well, as I've said before, and many times I'll repeat myself, all of the sims do something really, really well, and generally speaking, they're all pretty good nowadays. You know, all game developers, all game studios that do these games have access to all sorts of, let's say, data that makes these sims very accurate. You know, some have certain things better than others, you know, stuff like that. But they're all, generally speaking, they're all very, very good. But as I say, guys, that's my take on the M2, for the various reasons that I've outlined. I do think we have a bit of divergence on this one. But yeah, if you have both of these sims, fire up, do a couple of laps even. Doesn't have to be a race, just any, you know, any little practice session, do a few laps, let me know what you thought. Be very interested to see if your findings match with mine. Just before we get to that, while the M2s decide to become monster trucks there, let me just share my settings, right? So run a DD2, gain in game is at 50%, the regular damper is at 10, dynamic damping is at 100, which is basically like gyroscopic forces, so the quicker you go, the more damping will come through the steering wheel. And then in terms of my Fanalab settings, let me just share this real quick with you. So let me pull that down. So there's my Fanalab, or Fanatec DD2 settings. So yeah, overall force feedback at 65. Adjust that to your wheelbase, right? So if you have like a CSL DD Pro or something, feel free to raise that for the 90% or whatever. Natural damper, friction, inertia, interpolation, all off. I just want ACC's raw feedback. And then the only other change I make is the game damper effect strength. I run that at 60. Now what that damper effect strength does, that has a direct impact on these damper settings here. Right, so my damper in effect is probably running at about 6% or thereabout, or you know, whatever. But the reason I do that is because the actual feedback from the game itself is quite good. So I feel that, you know, a lot of the times there's not much messing around to be done with the force feedback profiles or anything like that. In other games, you do have to make a few changes like damping and stuff to get them to feel somewhat realistic. But in ACC, like I say, when it comes to settings and sliders on your force feedback, less is more, in my opinion. If the feedback feels a bit too choppy for you, which, you know, it might do, it might be totally new to you. If you prefer a smoother, let's say, feedback experience, a lot of people run to the damper slider and start fiddling with that. what I would say to you is if you want a smoother feedback and you're on a Fanatec wheelbase, start with the interpolation filter. Increase that to 1, then to 2, then to 3 if you want to smoothen it out. 1 will make a nice difference and that will smoothen things out, but you lose a hint of the directness. Depends what you're used to. And for SimiCube guys, that is your reconstruction filter. But yeah, leave it there guys, thanks for watching. Go give these a try, let me know what you think, and yeah, until the next one.